Hey again everyone, and welcome back to the channel for another installment in our ongoing new figure showcase series. And if you're new to the channel, this is basically the series where we take a look at a new addition to my collection, and more often than not it will be a newer release, although there are exceptions here and there. Now, for today's installment, I'm actually pretty excited to take a look at this release, and the figure is none other than Lieutenant Saavik from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Now, look, if you've been following EXO-6 as a company, the company that's focused on Star Trek, there's always been a bit of controversy on how the company's handled which figures and which characters to release. For example, from Wrath of Khan, the question is why Saavik, a secondary character, before the likes of Kirk, Spock, McCoy, or even the titular Khan himself. Now, the CEO of EXO-6 claims there's a method to his madness, and look, he's been going on for a few years now, so it seems to be working. And we are getting characters that I don't think we'd ever be expecting to get. And for me, this does serve as an indication of what's to come with those figures that we really want from this movie. So I think this remains to date one of the best Star Trek movies released from that original crew era, so very exciting. So Lieutenant Saavik is portrayed by the late Kirstie Alley, very much an important character in both The Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock, although at that point she was portrayed by a different actress, but definitely not one of the key characters of the movie, I would argue. So let's take a look at what EXO-6 is giving us here. Now, there are two different versions that you can get. The regular one version, which is the all-in package, and the Kobayashi Maru edition, which is their standard. We'll be looking at the full version here, which, as you can see, still doesn't include much, but one of the extras is truly impressive. So in case you were wondering, I am talking about that jacket that they used during the away missions. We'll look at it on the figure, but it is an amazing piece of work that EXO-6 was able to recreate, and my understanding is that this was a challenging element of the figure. Besides that jacket, you do get a few spare hands, nothing ridiculous. You get the phaser, a communicator, and a scanner, which is clearly a precursor to the more compact tricorder. And then the stand, although this one is a bit different from the ones we've grown accustomed to in some of the more current iterations. So let's get into the accessories, and we'll start with the hands as we normally do. Not much here. You get a couple of fists, which I really wouldn't use with this figure. You get two hands sculpted to hold the phaser and the communicator and the scanner, and then you get the splayed out hand and the Vulcan greeting. They look fine, decent paint apps and sculpting, although the saluting hand is a little rough around the edges, and you'll see that later on the figure, but decent overall. Now, as an added bonus, that honestly won't impact my overall thoughts on the figure, you do get this pin set to look like the movie comm badges. I love this edition, it's just a nice extra, and I'm starting to get a decent collection of them with the Admiral Picard one and some others that EXO-6 has gifted. Great look on the actual Delta with the nice portion in the back. Now, going back to the accessories for the figure, you do get the phaser, and look, first thing I noticed, it's very simple. Not EXO-6's fault at all, they're recreating the prop from the movie, but it's basic. Just with the grip and the body all having that almost bluish green paint app to it, and just a sculpted trigger at the front of the grip. The top does have some additional buttons and slightly more detailed looks, but overall very basic. The scanner is the next one we're going to look at. It does include a real strap and is connected with a real metal clip. Scanner itself is actually pretty large with a nice blue paint app on the body and some sculpted buttons on the top with a sticker applied to create the screen. The front is a silver sensor that has some nice detailing on the sides, including what looks like and feels like actual metal clips. Detail on this is great, and it's kind of a memorable piece from the team's away mission. Final accessory is the communicator itself. The cap does open up to a 90-degree bend, so it's a little more blocky than some of the others we've seen from EXO-6, but it still looks great. It comes in a nice silver paint app, very basic, but this is the accessory that seems to have gotten a decent bit of detailing, including the nice black insert on the inside with the perforated surface and some text, and the reveal of the inner workings, which aren't as intricate as others. The other nice thing is that you do get a clear plastic element at the bottom of the device that gives it just something a little bit extra. And it does close and consolidate into a very compact piece, although unlike the TNG or Voyager figures or Deep Space Nine, this one doesn't seem to come with a magnetic device to hold in place to the uniform, which matches the look, right? That's not something we saw in the movie. Final accessory is the base, and normally I wouldn't even include this one, but here EXO-6 did make a change. So usually we've gotten the hexagonal base that can connect to other bases to create a transporter padlock with the clear plastic cover over the top and swappable sheets underneath to create different looking pads. Here you get the same shape, but you get an underlying black plastic surface that has an interlocking honeycomb pattern, and affixed to the clear plastic covering, you have this round opaque plastic circle that's raised and textured, creating a very different look from what we've gotten before, so very cool. So now moving on to the figure and taking a look at the sculpt, I'll say this is good. but not perfect. And I think I'm a little spoiled from what we've seen from EXO-6 recently, with the Picard figures they released and the Pike and Spock from Strange New Worlds, which were incredible sculpts. But this is really solid. I do see the likeness to Kirstie Alley as she appeared in the movie, and they even tried to give her that slightly expressive look with the raised eyebrow that does work. Paint apps around the eyes look good and have come a long way for EXO-6, with great detailing, and even the hair. While it lacks some of the finer detailing we've grown accustomed to from the likes of Hot Toys, it's still very decent, with a nice braid in the back, and it doesn't appear like just a chunk of plastic haphazardly dropped onto the sculpt. So overall, I think EXO-6 did a great job here. Now let's move on to the rest of the figure, and this is where EXO-6 always shines, and that's the uniform. And I think for Star Trek, this is probably the most visually stunning uniform that has ever graced a screen for that show and that movie series. The red and black is always a great combination, and there is a classiness to this uniform, from the ribbed turtleneck in the divisional colors. So for Saavik, we're getting it in red, and then you get the rank on the shoulder, which also serves to hold the dress shirt closed, to the rank on the cuff of the sleeve, and then the belt with the Starfleet Delta. Just a beautifully designed uniform, and more importantly for us as collectors, a uniform that EXO-6 recreated amazingly well. Tailoring is without a doubt top notch here, even with the black accent pieces running down her back. Just an incredible looking uniform. The pants as usual are simple, although these do flare out at the bottom as they do tuck into the boots, which is another cool detail that sets these apart from other figures in the Star Trek collection. And the pants do include a red stripe down both legs. That's just another nice visual flair. Now, if that wasn't enough, you get the alternate jacket. Now, you do have to remove the uniform jacket to get the away team one on. It's not that bad to do. The uniform is held in place with magnets and a series of snaps. Biggest challenge for me is just the belt, because the buckle isn't fixed to one end. It's actually placed into two holes on the belt, so you'll need tweezers to get this one off and then back in place, which is where it gets a little tricky. But then the away team jacket, this thing is amazing. Detail work is insane with all the pockets and the straps and different elements throughout, and even the logos on the sleeves. There's just a lot to see here, and of course the white fabric collar, that it just pops. This is the first time I'm conflicted as to how to showcase the figure, because the base uniform is stunning, but this jacket, I can see why the cost for this figure is higher, just because of the tailoring work that went into this. Not simple by any means, and it looks fantastic. So look, overall, great figure and great way to keep keep giving us this command Enterprise crew from the Wrath of Khan. To me, they knocked it out of the park, and really the only question for you is, do you need a Lieutenant Saavik in your collection? Posability-wise, she's awesome. Accessories are a little bit light, but EXO-6 is also teasing the bridge diorama from the Enterprise, from the movie, so you can potentially have her seated in the command chair, although I'm personally thinking that I'll reserve that for Kirk. But it's an option. But figure, again, highly posable, and even in the standard uniform, she's just classy. I think this is one of my favorite EXO-6 figures to date, and that's saying something when you consider she's not one of the primary crew members. But it does give me a lot of hope for what's to come, and like all of you, I'm chomping at the bit to get the announcement of Admiral Kirk, Captain Spock, and Dr. McCoy at the very least. So very amazing figure, very excited to have this in hand, and I do think that EXO-6 continues to improve with every release. They've already got the tailoring down, and the sculpts are just improving, so that's a good thing. But just keep in mind that the prices are creeping a little bit up. But again, fantastic figure if you're a fan of Wrath of Khan, and I think it gives us something to look forward to for the future releases that we're all waiting for. So just my thoughts on this. A very quick video because there wasn't much to it other than the uniform, which is great. But I'm very happy with the product. But let me know your thoughts, and we'll touch base on the next video.